So this video is about DaBaby. I don't know what he's been up to recently at all. I think the last thing I seen was him at a basketball game tweaking at someone. I think it was like the Charlotte Hornets against the Knicks. But yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on.
Now I want to talk about this recent situation involving DaBaby and a painter, because for a second this whole thing kind of went left, and it's one of those moments where if you just see the clip you might think one thing, but when you actually slow it down and look at what really happened, it's a completely different story. So basically this is how everything played out, right? It all
DaBaby responds to fan painting of his daughters, set boundaries. Oh, like they just painted just his daughters, nigga? Like not even him? Or him with his daughters? If it's him with his daughters, I think it's cool. But if it's the daughters and they underage, nah, bro.
started outside a nightclub where DaBaby was performing that night. This happened a few days ago, and there were a bunch of fans outside, people waiting, cameras out. It was just a typical environment.
It's just his daughters.
This happened a few days ago, and there were a bunch
Oh, that's kind of weird.
of fans outside, people waiting,
That's a little weird.
cameras out. It was just a typical environment where anything can go viral in seconds, a bunch of people with cameras and stuff. And DaBaby was performing at this nightclub, right? And in the middle of all that, there was this artist. He was a painter. And instead of asking for a picture or a signature,
I ain't gonna lie, I would have looked at that nigga so crazy, like. Well, maybe he didn't. Maybe he thought he was cooking. Like, yo, just give this to your daughters. I don't know.
he decided to approach DaBaby with something a little more personal. He had a painting, not just any type of painting, but he had a portrait of DaBaby's daughters. Now you can look at this and be like, yo, that's pretty thoughtful. Like, he clearly put time into it. It's a beautiful painting, by the way. He's trying to show appreciation, maybe even stand out from the crowd and kind of just do something nice for DaBaby. But at the same time, and this is where things get a little complicated.
Where you slapped him?
You're not just approaching an artist anymore. Now you're approaching the father, DaBaby, right? So in this situation right here, DaBaby looks at the painting, he glances at it, and then decides to walk past him, and he just keeps him moving. He just ignores it and goes on his way, right? And that's the moment where people started forming their opinions, because to some people that looked rude. Like, damn, this guy drew this painting for you of your daughters and you couldn't even acknowledge it. But the situation didn't stop there, because after that moment, the painter went on Instagram and he posted the artwork. And now what could have just been a quick interaction outside a club turned into something bigger, because now it's public and now a bunch of people are reacting to it. And then that's when DaBaby comes into the equation and he steps in. And he ends up responding to the situation and makes it very clear that this wasn't about disrespect. This was about boundaries from his perspective. Basically saying, I need you to take that down. We'll go over that in a second. But for anyone who hasn't seen the clip, please saying,
You still got my daughters on your page as a grown man after I made it clear I ain't comfortable with that. You got a point.
I need you to take that down. We'll go over that in a second. But for anyone who hasn't seen the clip that we're talking about, let's actually check it out right now. So as you can see, the painter is showing him this portrait of his daughters, and DaBaby kind of glances at it for like 2 to 3 seconds, and then he's like, nah.
I can't blame DaBaby for feeling this way, man.
Keeps it moving. Now, this is where the situation starts to get interesting, because something that
What the hell is this?
was honestly a very small moment ended up becoming way bigger than it needed to be, in my opinion. Like, this wasn't some big altercation. There was no real confrontation. It was literally just a quick interaction outside a club. And what makes this even more interesting is that the situation actually did get resolved later on. It was handled in a pretty mature way from both sides. But before that happened, DaBaby was getting a lot of pushback for this. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty surprised by that, because when you actually look at what was going on, it's not as black and white as people were making it seem. And there are a lot of people who agreed with him, saying things like, yeah, that's his kids. You just can't do that, right? But at the same time, there were also a lot of people who didn't agree. And their main point was, where's the appreciation? Like, someone took the time to create something for you, they put a bunch of effort into it, and you just walk past them like that? And I understand that perspective, I really do. But at the same time, I feel like people are missing something important here, and that's kind of what makes this situation a little tricky. Because on one side, you have the painter, someone creating something probably with good intentions, trying to show appreciation, trying to stand out. But on the other side, you have a person who doesn't actually know you. And more importantly, you're bringing his children into that interaction. And that changes everything, because now it's not just about art anymore, it's about boundaries. And these are his boundaries. And I feel like this is the part that people aren't really separating properly, because it would be completely different if he pulled up with a painting of DaBaby himself. along with his daughters, right, in the painting that he created for him. Now, in that situation, if DaBaby just walked past him, didn't acknowledge it, didn't say anything, yeah, you could look at it and be like, all right, that's kind of odd. And even though he's not obliged to stop, it would have...
He could have, like, maybe said, like, hey, that looks nice, and just walk away and keep it pushing. And people would still look at him like he's an asshole, but I'm trying to think in my perspective, I don't think I would even jack that either. Unless my kid was kind of like public, well known, and like say if I was Kanye and I see a painting of I'm gonna say Kim North, I might take it only for the fact that North is like kind of public and kind of makes music as well. But it just feels like if you're going in detail with my daughter, that means you're going through like pictures and you know what I'm saying? Maybe I'm tweaking. I don't know.
Reflected positively on his character to at least acknowledge the guy. Maybe dapped him up and said, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. But that's not what happened here. He didn't draw DaBaby. He drew his daughters. And DaBaby was excluded from the painting that he drew for him. And that's why I think it's a little bit of a different situation. Now, I don't know DaBaby personally, obviously. I'm only going off of what we've seen publicly. But one thing that's very obvious and very clear about DaBaby is that he does not play about his kids, like at all. He loves them, right? And that's dope because there are so many parents who don't do shit for their children in this day and age, right? So to see a father who loves his children that much, I really respect it. And maybe that's why the guy who painted it was thinking that he was doing a good deed for DaBaby, right? But at the end of the day, too, they don't really know each other. And to him, DaBaby is just a stranger coming up to him with artwork of his children. So not everybody is going to be comfortable with that. You get what I'm saying? And actually, I feel like most people wouldn't, even if, let's say, you're famous. But on the other hand, a lot of people looked at this and said, yo, this was an innocent and appreciative act. And honestly, I can see that perspective, though. Especially when you think about it from the painter side. This guy is clearly an artist. He knows how to create a beautiful piece of artwork. And this is how he expresses himself, and this is how he shows appreciation for someone that he probably respects. So I don't think there was any malicious intent behind what he did. Obviously not. But looking at it from DaBaby's perspective, you can kind of see why he felt a certain type of way. Yeah. I guess if you try to look at it from DaBaby's perspective, he's probably just seeing the stranger, pulling up to him with a painting of his daughters, and then he's like, wait a second, you have to sit there and look at pictures of my kids?
Thank you. That is what I'm getting towards. Like, bro, you that's what you did. You know what I'm saying?
Study them, recreate them, and now you're bringing that to me? And I'm assuming that's why he felt uncomfortable, if I had to take a guess, right?
I'm not into, like, grown-ass men discussing my daughters, painting pictures of my daughters, taking pictures of my kids. I don't play like that. If you play like that, to each his own.
Hey, man, when it comes to people's children, especially in this day
I'm not mad at it,
and age,
apparently you can go from 0 to a complete site in just a single prompt with Wix Harmony. I don't know if this is going to be possible.
It's a very sensitive conversation, especially in today's world. And it kind of reminds me of something I saw on social media a while back. It was this skit of this guy walking past a playground and there was a bunch of kids playing there. And in his head, he's kind of being nostalgic. He had like this little voiceover and you can hear him say like, man, I wish I could go back to those days when life was simple, when everything was fun. So in his head, there's nothing weird about that at all because he's just reminiscing in a very innocent way, right? But from the outside looking in, you don't know what this guy is thinking, right? All you see is a grown man standing there looking at a bunch of kids, and that's where perception comes into play. Because even if the intention is innocent, the situation itself can still come across a certain way. And I think that's the part that a lot of people are overlooking here. So basically, the point I'm trying to make is you just never know what's going on inside someone else's head, especially when it comes to things like this.
I gotta understand, what is this clip supposed to represent?
Like, what's going on?
Well, it represents age, but why?
Someone else's head, especially when it comes to things like this. And that's why I said if he had drawn, let's say, DaBaby with his daughters, that would change the tone a little bit, right? Because now it feels more like you're celebrating him as a father and not focusing on his children. And that small difference, I actually think matters more than people think, because it softens things and makes your intentions a lot clearer. Whereas in this case, although it looks like a good deed, it kind of leaves room for interpretation. And again, that's where the power of perception comes into play. Now, after this whole interaction happened, the painter ended up posting the clip online of DaBaby walking past him, basically ignoring him. And once that hit social media, you already know how that goes. People start reacting, picking sides, turning it into something very big. And that's when DaBaby finally responds and says the following.
I'm not into, like, grown-ass men discussing my daughters, painting pictures of my daughters, taking pictures of my kids. I don't play like that. If you play like that, to each his own. You see what I'm saying? Like, more power to you. Send that nigga a picture of your daughters, let that nigga paint them, and then show him some appreciation. Number 2, I'm not accepting no.
Yeah, if you asking for a painting like that, then yeah, bro. But unexpectedly, it's just hard, bro.
Painting on my daughters outside of a nightclub. Number 3. You see what I'm saying? You feel a way about, the principles I stand on with my kids and how far I go to protect them.
So obviously this is just a man who doesn't play about his kids. And again, this is a sensitive topic because these are not random subjects. These are real people, his children, something that's personal to him. And when it comes to that, nobody can really sit there and tell him how he's supposed to react. Now here's where things start to get a little more wild because the situation doesn't
there's more.
Just stay between DaBaby and the painter. It turns out that the painter is actually related to Charleston White.
Oh man. Oh shit.
And if you know anything about Charleston White, you already know how this is about to go. This is someone who's built a reputation online for being very outspoken, very controversial, and essentially trolling.
I ain't gonna lie, Charleston White and DaBaby beef would be hilarious though.
So once he sees what's going on,
look at this sticker, bro.
steps into the situation. And he basically comes out saying he's on smoke. Like, you can come and get this work type of energy, right? Claiming that DaBaby was wrong for how he spoke to his cousin.
Now, DaBaby, you want us to think you would have done something to a nigga painting a picture for your kids.
But then he takes it a step further because he also starts saying things about DaBaby's daughters that, in my opinion, he just went way too far.
Fuck your kids, bitch ass. Fuck your.
Yeah, you see, this motherfucker needs to. I ain't gotta say motherfucker. This nigga is just tweaking, bro. What?
Girls.
Now, when it comes to Charleston White,
A grown man says something like that.
I'm not gonna lie, this guy's an agent of chaos. Personally, I don't take anything he says seriously, especially after everything we've seen from him over the last few years. Some of the stuff he says is so out of pocket, I literally couldn't even play it in this video. That's Charleston White for you. And to me, it was pretty obvious what he was trying to do. He was trying to bait DaBaby into going back and forth so he could turn this into something even bigger. I feel like Charleston White is just like a spiritual trap. You get it, you get it. But to DaBaby's credit, he didn't fall for it. And that's exactly what I would have done in this situation as well. Just ignore him. Now, the painter eventually responds as well. He posts a video explaining his side of the story, what his intentions were, where he was coming from, and then DaBaby responds once again. And honestly, DaBaby's response was pretty mature. It was a long message, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I will just say this. He ended up saying, at the end of that comment, he said, "Happy Easter." And if you really think about it, that kind of detail tells you everything you need to know, because if we're talking about DaBaby here, if he's wishing you a happy Easter after all this, we're doing pretty good, okay? That means the situation is in a pretty good place. I feel like this situation just became way bigger than it needed to be. And if I'm being honest, I'm kind of on DaBaby's side here. Not because I think the painter had any bad intentions, but
I'm on the same side. Usually, he'd be saying some wild shit or something's happening with DaBaby, or maybe I'm not. Maybe agree on. I can't even think of one, to be honest, at the moment. I don't know. But I feel like DaBaby recently, I don't know, for the past 4 or 5 years, anytime he's in some sort of altercation or something going on, like, people just hate the nigga, bro, for real, for real. But when he first came up, he was popping. I was fucking with DaBaby too, nigga. But it is what it is. I think we just got the main gist of the video. Of course, Charleston, what I have to say was
experience taught me is that everyone sees things through their own lens. People react based on their experiences, their past, their trauma, whatever they've been through. So even if your intentions are pure, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to be received that way. And on top of that, when you're talking about someone's kids, it's just a very sensitive conversation and area, especially in the times we're living in right now. If you pay even a little bit of attention to what's going on in the world, you already know why people are more protective of their kids than ever, okay? Let's just put it like that. So,
well, couldn't say any better. Couldn't say it any better. Yeah, man. I hope the painter doesn't sell that piece of work. Just throw it out. You know what I'm saying? And Charleston White, don't talk about niggas' kids, bro. And DaBaby, happy Easter to you too.